Shalom, Parashat Mishpatim, which means legal dispositions. And with this long list of legal rules, after the peak experience at Mount Sinai, Parashat Mishpatim really brings us down to earth. So much so that it sounds more like a civil code than a spiritual text. And yet the Meor Einayim, as he usually does, through commenting on just one word in the first verse, takes us through a very sophisticated inquiry into perhaps two of the deepest questions for humanity. One is the question of evil in the world, our role in it, our power to destroy, but also our power to heal and to work towards the Tikkun of the world, Tikkun Olam. And the second one being the question of suffering, and what I would call constructive suffering. And this is what I want to focus on now. The Meor Einayim brings a comparison made by the Talmud between two ways that we have to technically atone for our sins, so basically cleanse ourselves from our mistakes. One is the Korban Chatat, the sin offering, which Jews used to bring to the temple, something we haven't had the opportunity to do for the past 2,000 plus years. The second modality may seem more surprising. It's suffering. The suffering, in a Jewish perspective, has the capacity to atone. And I feel that this is something that's been wildly misunderstood throughout history, so that people would think that, beating ourselves up symbolically, but also literally, would actually suffice to cleanse our souls. And yet the Talmud tells us very explicitly that no, that it's not enough. And it tells us that just so the sin offering requires awareness, that as a precondition for it to be performative, so too does suffering require awareness. And this is where the Meor Einayim is going, reminding us again and again what he does throughout the book of Shemot, throughout his commentaries, of the importance of this spiritual practice that we can do, which is to bring awareness to what happens to us and to what we do. And I think this is something that maybe you've experienced in your life when you've encountered suffering, challenges, loss, God forbid, that the times that instead of turning away from them, resisting, denying, you agreed to actually meet the suffering and look into it. Maybe this is when you realize that huge healing, realizations, insight, and growth could come. This is exactly the concept in contemporary psychology of resilience, right? This idea that actually suffering can be productive when we turn towards it. And so this is my invitation for us from this teaching of the Meor Einayim, that maybe the next time that we meet suffering in our lives, can we, instead of turning away from it, turn towards it to shine the light of awareness. I hope this spoke to you, and if this did speak to you, feel free to share with a friend or with family members, and wish you Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat of peace. Shabbat Shalom.